This is Michael. He's the president of Textbook Painting in Cleveland. Michael has how many decades of experience?
I'm going to take you all the way back to the beginning in my intro. So I don't want to
Okay,
give
all
anything
right, all
away.
right, all right. Well,
A lot.
Michael, I get the privilege of
Too
co-hosting
many.
the Price Sell Paint podcast with Michael, and it's always a great conversation. We share a lot of similar values, and Michael's someone who's a deep thinker about this industry and has had an incredible amount of success, is on a great journey with his painting business, and is always thinking about this. So you're going to learn so much from Michael today. I am pumped for that. So again, leave your questions in the Q&A, and which is on the right-hand side. And yeah, Michael, take it away, man. Let's hear about money mindset. I'm excited.
John's giving away the big cash if you ask questions. We got our money here. That's what we're talking about. So I want to take you back to my journey. John just mentioned I've been doing this a little while. Excited to chat this morning. Appreciate John kind of kicking off this whole event. Yeah, it's a busy time of year, I think, for everybody. And, there's a lot of sales opportunities available. So hopefully everybody gets a ton out of today. I'm excited for this session. It's honestly been, I think a really great opportunity for me just to really, address some of my own money mindsets over the last few months. We've been really focused on this at my company and excited to kind of chat with you all about it today. So let me introduce myself, kind of explain my journey. As John mentioned, I own a painting company in Cleveland, Ohio, and I've been working with John and the PaintScout team for the last few years, just trying to help bring some education and, some value, hopefully. So let's get started. Let's talk about my money mindset, my journey. So back in 2003, this is when the Apple iPod first came out. There's probably people on this call that weren't alive yet. So if you can appreciate, I'm a college freshman and I start running a painting company for the first time. I had painted for a summer when I was in high school, thought, hey, I know how to paint. How hard can this be? I think as many of us might have realized, it's a little bit harder than we first thought. For me, that first summer, the biggest problem I had is as a college student, I didn't have any money. I think we can all probably relate to that. I was paying my way through school. Part of the reason I went out and started this painting company. And so how that translated itself, I've told the story before. I never sold a single project more than $3,000. And this was all because of my own mindset, my own belief that there's no way that anybody's going to spend $3,000 to paint a house. Like, that's crazy. And so what would happen is I would calculate my price. I would often get a price of, I don't know, maybe $3,300 or $3,600. And I would look at it and go, well, that's too high. Customers can't afford that. And so what I would do is I would lower it. My price I'd show the customer was $29.50 or maybe even $29.75 if I was feeling spicy that day, but it could never start with a 3 because that was just ridiculous. And so what does that mean? Well, it means I had about a 25% win rate and I lost about $2,500 for the summer. So that was great. I had worked all summer long. I'm out painting with my crew. Every evening I would be knocking on doors, doing estimates, trying to drum up some work, working on the weekends. I remember I'd always have to leave, the bars at like midnight because I would have some 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. estimate the next day, and all the show for it, I had lost about $2,500. So that sucked. Don't recommend it. But because I'm a glutton for punishment, I kept doing it. Did that all throughout college. And then I kept doing it after college. As many people can, relate to that type of a start. I know there's a lot of the college painting alumni in our industry. So for the next 15 years, my money mindset, it changed. I realized in that first year that wasn't it. People could actually spend more than $3,000. But so what I thought I had figured out is that it wasn't about the spending $3,000, but it actually had everything to do with my competition. How did my price relate to my competition? I knew that customers probably weren't going to spend like the highest price. They probably weren't going to go with the lowest price. That really the trick was I just need to be in the middle. As long as I was in the middle, I was going to be in pretty good shape. And so that was kind of like my money mindset or my strategy for that like next 15 years up until about 2018. And so what did that get for me? Well, not a whole lot. So we had a ton of turnover. And by the end of 2018, after graduating in 2006, I'd been running this full-time painting business for 12 years, and I had about $200,000 in debt. Some years are profitable, we'd make a little bit of money. Next year we'd lose money, make a little, lose. Again, a lot of problems. Again, don't recommend it. And so I really had to go to work on myself. I had to figure out, like, what is wrong here. Like, I feel like I'm a pretty capable person. I know that there's other people in our industry that are being successful. And so what is the difference? And so what I did is I went in and, tried to figure out, like, why are we having so much trouble here? And it realized that it really had everything to do with me and my own mindsets on money. And so from 2019 until today, I've been on this great journey. John kind of talked about it. We met in 2020. At that time, our sales win rate was 32%. John mentioned it today. We sell over 50% of our jobs. We have 3 full-time sales reps in the company, and things have changed dramatically for the better. A lot of it has to do with the reality that customers are buying for their own reasons. They're not buying for my reasons. They're not buying because I'm tricking them into something, or, because I'm manipulating a price to, fit under a certain made up threshold in my mind. But they're buying, and I'm going to talk about this a lot, but simply because the value I'm providing them exceeds the price that I'm giving them. It's just that simple. And so I have to go to work every single day on understanding how is my own mindset affecting my ability to deliver my customers what they're ultimately looking for. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm excited to go on this journey with you. For many of you, maybe this is a new concept. Maybe it's not something that you've taken some time to really reflect on. For others, maybe you're on this journey, you've been on it with me for a while. And so hopefully today we can move a little bit closer to being able to kind of master our own money mindsets. All right, so let's go on to the next step here. So what we want to do is so this actually works really well. If we've got a live audience, I can get feedback from you. Obviously with the internet here, that's challenging. And so we're going to try to use some polls, chat, and at the end, some question and answer. So I want to do a little self-assessment. So let's go to our next slide here. And so what I want you to do, I'm going to open up a poll. What we're looking for here is answer this question. In your personal life, when you make a big purchase, like buying a car, I like to shop around for a great deal. So think of this as a scale from 0 to 5. Do you strongly disagree, or do you strongly agree, or maybe somewhere in the middle? So about 50% of the responses are a 5. The next most common is a 3 with a bunch at a 4. Very few responses in the 0, 1, or 2. So what I'm seeing, if we could, again, this is an individual exercise. So really think about your own mindset here. But as a group, it looks like we generally agree that when we make a big decision, we like to shop around. So how might that affect us? Right? Well, one way that might affect you is when a customer says, hey, we're going to get some other quotes. It might seem like, yeah, of course you are. Like, that seems like the most normal thing to do. And so what I'll do is I'll follow up with you in a week or so, and we'll kind of see where things are at. And you kind of mosey on down and move on to the next appointment. Instead, what you need to do is have a deeper conversation with that client and isolate the objection. Maybe it's a question like, hey, understand, I get that you want to have, more, get some more quotes here. And I would probably do the same thing. Let me ask you a few questions. What are you looking for in that next quote? If we don't get an opportunity to work together, what would that reason be? Is there anything I didn't show you today, or do you have any concerns that I didn't address? Those might be ways that we could take our money mindset and maybe work around it to be more effective in our sales, presentations. All right, so let's go to the next one. I've got a handful of questions here just to kind of get us started, get us into this, our own mindsets here. So let me publish this poll. All right, so the second question, which one best describes your personal buying? So again, we're going to stay on our own personal way that we spend money here for just another question. So we're going to look for A, B, or C. A, I use financing or debt, but only to buy something I absolutely need. I'd rather use someone else's money if there's a low APR. Or C, if I don't have the money for something, I'll wait until I save enough to buy it with cash. All right, so we're seeing, actually it's pretty split. I'm seeing about half the votes towards A and about half the votes towards C, and then a handful, but definitely a drop off in that B column. So it's interesting, right? How you think about financing or debt, how might that affect what you're projecting on your customers? Right? In general, as people, we think that everybody's like us. Everybody thinks like we do. So we're going to talk a lot today about financing and offering maybe like different payment options. All right, let's go to the third one. I feel comfortable talking about budget with customers. So again, we're looking at 0 to 5. So now we're going to be talking about in our professional life, right? When we're out doing our job as a sales professional in the painting industry, I feel uncomfortable talking about budget with customers. Do you strongly disagree? You never feel uncomfortable? You strongly agree? I always feel uncomfortable. All right, so it looks like we're skewing again towards that 3, 4, and 5. So definitely more agreement that I feel uncomfortable talking about budget with customers. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Number 4, I don't like suggesting upgrades or other services we could provide unless the customer asks. So let me publish that poll. Again, similar. 0, strongly disagree. I always give options above what they ask for. Or 5, I strongly agree. I never make suggestions like this. So how this might look as you're filling out the poll, you show up, you ask the customer, hey, what are you looking to get painted? And then you provide that exact thing for them. Or are we asking them what they'd like to get painted? But as you walk around and you notice things, are we saying, hell, I think actually what you might want to do is X, Y, or Z? This one's interesting. I'm seeing a pretty good amount of like equal spread here. Although at this point we have nobody who said a 5, that they never make suggestions. We're leaning towards making suggestions. We're leaning towards these lower numbers. So 0s and 1s seems to be kind of winning there. Okay, interesting. And then we've got one more of these polls. Last one here. I wait until the end to bring up budget or price. So waiting until the end of our like sales conversation, maybe that estimate appointment. So again, 0 to 5, strongly disagree. You never wait until the end. 5, strongly agree. I always wait until the end. Or maybe somewhere in the middle. What does that look like for you? All right, so it looks like we're starting to get a decent amount of votes here. We're leaning towards 4s and 5s. There's definitely some in the 2 and 3s. There's very few in the 0 or 1s. It seems like as a group, we're generally waiting until the end to bring up budget and price. And so that might be something to think about, something to consider. Where's that coming from? Why might that be? And what can we do to maybe, or should we even talk about that earlier? So we're going to have some conversations around that in our presentation today. My last 2 questions here, we're actually going to use the chat feature. So let me go to the next slide. So throw in the chat, how would you answer this? So fill in the blank. Customers looking for, quote, an affordable painter are blank. Try to keep it to maybe 1 to 3 words. Price shopping, cheap, tire kickers, price driven, price shoppers, not my customer, price shopping, on a budget, uninformed, saying affordable, meaning cheapest, not my customer, tire kicker, cautious. I'm hearing some negative sentiment. I think we could maybe agree with that. Uneducated, you're smart, kind of the opposite there. It's interesting. I see this a lot, right? For those of us that are on like the Facebook groups and things like that, I think a lot of people talk about like different lead sources. So customers that come from Facebook or Angie's List or Google or whatever they're just looking for the cheap option and things like that. How does that resonate with you in terms of how you buy? How might that affect you in a sales appointment? If you show up to a customer's house and they say, "Oh yeah, we're looking for affordable options here to get our house painted," does that change your mood? Does that change your perception? Does that change the questions that you ask? So Matt, I think here no indication of what painting costs in 2025. So again, interesting. There's no judgment for me. It's really just for you to try to think through, right? Are you taking your views of what the word affordable means and you're putting them on the customer? Maybe their view of affordable means something different. I think somebody mentioned that. Jada, it looks like. So here's one more response question, and then we're going to talk all about this. So how does this make you feel? Fill in the blank. Painting companies that charge $125 per hour are blank. I see a couple coming in. Profitable, on the high end, successful, killing it, higher priced. In California, okay, probably. Higher than us, high end. Doing well. Too expensive for my area. Something to think about as you're thinking through this, as you're looking through the chat. Would you expect that they sell at a high percentage? Would you expect that they sell at a low percentage? Do you feel like they're gouging people? Is it too high? Is it too low? 30% close, 40 to 50, low percentage of close. So again, just think through that. Like, where's that coming from? Is it based on like actual data, or is it just based on like a perception? Is $125 a lot of money? Is it not a lot of money? There's home improvement companies that charge more than $200 an hour. Why? What's the difference? Where's that coming from? So these are the kind of things that we're going to evaluate. My job today isn't to necessarily give you all these answers. It's actually to give you hopefully more questions. I want you to leave here in a contemplative state so that you can start to evaluate, like, how is your own mindset around money and around finance and around the word affordable, around the word expensive, around $125 an hour or $100 an hour, or these made up constructs that we've built based on our past experiences, right? We all have past experiences with money, with debt, with charging and things like that. We've all heard from customers, your price is too high. We will always hear from customers that your price is too high. And how is that affecting us as we go about being a sales professional? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's about our own money beliefs, how they shape our sales conversations, and it's about changing some of our beliefs and some of our thinking to be more effective, right? I think the way that we like to think about it is I want to be able to sell to as like a wide of an audience as possible, based on their buying habits, and things like that. We have a target customer, just like everybody else should. But as a sales professional, if I can only sell to people that see money and financing and things like that, just like me, I'm going to be very limited in what I'm able to accomplish. And so, how are we taking things with us on every single appointment? So here are some examples of money mindsets. Think through these. Maybe some of these resonate with you. So the first money mindset might be money avoidance. It's uncomfortable to talk about money. Maybe in your family or in your personal life, it would be really awkward to have a conversation about money, to talk about maybe how much money you have or how much money you made last year, or maybe how much money you want to make this year, how much money you spent on that family vacation, and things like that. If that's you, like, nothing wrong with that. It's honestly, it's like, I would say, like, I resonate with that a lot. And so, like, but why is that? Where is that coming from? And then more importantly, how might that affect you and your ability to talk about budgets and price and things like that with clients? Money vigilance, debt is bad. I would say, like, Dave Ramsey falls into this. I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. It was impactful in my own life, helped me get out of debt. But there's a lot of different views on debt. And so if yours is that, like, debt is evil or bad, how might that affect your ability to help your customers afford a project? Money status. I think this is a big one. North America, success equals income. If we have a bigger house, a fancier car, if I have more money, more successful. And just to go right along with that is this idea of, like, money worship. More money equals more happiness. If I just had a little bit more, right? John D. Rockefeller was famously asked, another awesome, Cleveland representative, when he was by far the richest person in the world, he was asked, John, like, how much money is enough? And his famous answer, just a little bit more. And I think we constantly see that in our society today. And so again, like, how might any one of these mindsets be shaping how we take that out into our sales appointments to go meet with homeowners or commercial clients every single day? All right, so here's some ways that it might be affecting you in your everyday life, right? So the first one, price delay, putting off money or budget talks until the end. So we saw that as one of our poll questions. It seems like that's one that resonates pretty well. Budget assumptions. So maybe we think clients can't afford a premium option. Maybe we offer a, like, mid-tier paint instead of that premium quality paint that we might use at our own home. Financing discomfort. So are we offering financing? Do you know that PaintScout has this native integration with a financing tool called YStack? We actually started using that at my company a few years ago, or year or two ago, I guess, whenever it was. And we love it. Like, it is an awesome tool. It is a great way to help homeowners to maybe afford a project now that they might have to otherwise put off. And instead of putting off that painting project, maybe it's on the outside of the house, where they might end up with some more rotten wood or prep work, and all of a sudden now the project's just getting more expensive, they're able to maybe take on something now that they're excited to do. And then finally, pushing is fear, right? Do we have like negative connotations maybe of sales or sales reps? If we're talking about money and things like that, might that make me come across as not a very genuine person? Might I come across as, maybe money hungry, and things like that? So, these might be some of your own mindsets and some of the ways that they might be manifesting themselves. Love to hear in the chat. Do one of these four most resonate with you? If you're so bold, if you're willing, at this point, we've done some self-reflection work. Do one of these resonate with you to say, hey, like, I might be here. I might be in this little spot. So I'll give you maybe a second if anybody's so bold to throw that in there for us. Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Seeing some price delay, talking about money, budget, making assumptions about, what people can afford, maybe making assumptions based on the types of paints that we're going to provide, or the options, the upgrades, and things like that. Yeah, I think if we're being real, I know I struggle with these at different times. It really just kind of depends on, where I'm at in my maybe like confidence and my abilities and different things like that. Every appointment, I might be struggling with one of these. And if I'm not consciously thinking about it, I might be subconsciously being affected by it. So we're not alone. So I went out, I did some research on, not the painting industry, but as a more broad, like the home improvement industry. I find a lot of like very interesting takeaways from the home improvement industry at large. I think hopefully like many of you are aware of this, but there are roofing companies, window replacement companies, gutter guard companies out there that do and sell hundreds of millions of dollars in home improvement work projects every single year. Some of these companies are doing billions of dollars. We have two companies based here in the Cleveland area that do like $1.5 billion in annual sales in home improvement related projects, like I just mentioned. And they obviously operate in lots of different markets and different things like that. But it's just like, it helps to reframe my mind as to what is possible. And, what I found that was really interesting is they seem to be struggling with a lot of the same things. There was a study that I found that said 65% of sales reps in the home improvement industry have trouble talking about money and budget. So I think many people just mentioned that. We're not alone. Again, I know that's one for me. Another stat I found that was really interesting is when financing is offered, the ticket size is 23% higher. So customers are able to buy maybe a little bit more of their like full want, that full project that they're really hoping to get done, as opposed to just like the basic needs, when we're able to give them flexible payment options. And then when we lead with those monthly options, as opposed to starting with that full big price number, right? Instead of thinking, hey, this is a $20,000 project, we're thinking this is a whatever $270 a month payment or whatever that might look like. The research that I found showed that there's a 6 times better close rate. So I found that very interesting. Is again just a way to maybe understand how these things are affecting us, how these things are affecting our industry. All right, so let's start working on how do we get, like, where do we go from here? How do we work on this? All right, so a few things that I would encourage you to start to think about. We are looking to kind of like rewire how we think. So the first thing, you are not your customer. How you think about money, how you think about debt, how you think about financing, how you think about talking about money, or whatever it might be, getting multiple quotes, all of those things, that might not be what your customer's same mindset is. Don't assume they're going to get more quotes just because you would. Don't sell from your own wallet. Next one, payment options. Give them ability to say yes. 3, this is a huge one. Value is more important than price. People pay for what they value. So are you more focused on the price you're providing and maybe how that fits within your competitive market? Are we out there really like focused on how much are our competitors charging? Are we on the Facebook groups? Hey, how much should I charge for this? The answer is, I don't know, because I'm not your business. But the more important question is, how much value are you going to provide if your value is greater than your price, customers can buy. If your value is less than the price, they're not going to buy. It's kind of that simple. And then one more way to rewire your beliefs: just get comfortable with big numbers. That was for me, like, right, I go back to that freshman year college student, $3,000. That's insane. I can't imagine having that much money. For many of us now, it's not $3,000, but maybe it's 30, maybe it's 100. Whatever price point it is that you feel like that's a ton of money, check yourself. Is it? Or is it just, is it that way for your customer, or is it just that way for you? And so getting comfortable with talking about big numbers through role playing and some different things that we're about to talk about. All right. So one of the two of the ways that we do this at our company is on the screen here. So one is breaking up the project. So oftentimes we're going to go out and we're going to have a conversation with a customer. We're going to ask them really good questions. We're going to figure out exactly what their needs are, what their wants are, right? It's more than just the needs. What does their dream project look like? Does it include carpentry? Does it include, wallpaper, accent trim? Does it include like the premium option, the way to like prep the outside of this house? Maybe we're doing an oil primer and like a, peel bonding type of a primer, both of these things, whatever that might look like. Are we looking to give them like the 8-year paint job, or is there a way that we could give them that 12 to 15-year paint job? Again, whatever that might look like, let's have those conversations and not just make that assumption. And then if we can, let's try to figure out a way that we can break up that project. So maybe they want to get the whole inside of the house painted, wall, ceiling, and trim, and that's maybe too much money. And so what we're going to do then is say, okay, well, let's come up with a way that we can, what are the most important rooms for right now? If we got these rooms done this year with the premium paint, let's not make any sacrifices. Then perhaps we can come back in 6 months or next year and tackle the rest of the project instead of making sacrifices to the type of paint or, the longevity, or taking off the trim or something like that, where we're giving them less than what they actually want. Another way to do that, we've talked about it a few times, is offering financing. I'm a huge proponent. I'm talking about it a lot because it is very impactful. And I'm going to be honest, very few companies in PaintScout, in the painting industry, offer financing. It is an awesome tool. If you're not using it, you're giving your competitors a huge opportunity to come in and provide your customers with something better, something that they want. And so check yourself. Why aren't you offering that? Is it because you'd have to raise your price a little bit to afford it? Is it because you wouldn't use debt to finance a home improvement project? Think about those things. Here's some more specific tools. So here are some specific ways that we can get around some of our own like money challenges, if you will. So one is a concept called price conditioning. What price conditioning is really all about is shaping a customer's mindset around the price and what their perception of the price is. Every customer, every prospect, before you get there, they have an idea of what the price is going to be, period. You can ask them, do you have any idea what this might cost? They will say no. They're lying. They know, they have an idea of what it's going to cost because they've gone online, they've done some research, they talked to their neighbors, they've done other home improvement projects, maybe they've gotten other quotes, even if they say they haven't, and they have some idea of what that might be. And so if the only way that they have an idea of what this project is going to cost is from things that don't include you, you are leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. And so what I would encourage you to do is this concept called price conditioning, where we're having conversations around maybe other projects or, other ways that we can frame what your price is going to be before we get there. So you might do that by saying, hey, what's the last home improvement project that you did? And they might tell you they got a new roof. And it's like, oh, great. How did that go? What kind of things did that company do really well or not so well? You're learning now to what is important to this customer. Oh, they communicated really well. Okay, great. Anything that didn't go well? Well, they didn't clean up very well. Got it. So it sounds like communication, cleanup, being thorough, those are all going to be things that are really important when selecting your painting company. Am I hearing you correctly? Yeah, for sure. Okay, great. How much was that roofing project? Man, I hear like roofs are getting so expensive. I haven't had to get a roof on my own house in quite some time. Was it pretty expensive? Customer might say, no, it was actually pretty reasonable. It was only $15,000. It's like, oh, okay, interesting, right? They thought only $15,000. It was very, quote, reasonable. In your mind, you mean like $15,000 for a roof? That's insane, or whatever. But again, we're now learning the customer's mindset around money. We're also price conditioning. $15,000 was a reasonable number. If your painting quote is, I don't know, $12,000, it's like, yeah, no, that seems reasonable. 15,000 was reasonable. You didn't have to say that, right? It's just like the customer's subconscious mind is going to work here by getting this conversation around money out on the table without actually having to talk about the cost to do this painting project. Let's go to the next one. Financing as a service. So seeing financing as just like another opportunity to provide your customers with an exceptional service. Um, I looked at a study, so let me grab it here. So it was from Forbes Advisor. They did a study in 2024, last year. They found that 21% of home improvement projects in the United States are financed. So that's pretty interesting. 21%. How many are financed at your company? Right? In our industry, it's, I would imagine, way less than 21%. In the United States, every year there's more than $400 billion spent on home improvement projects. So that means about $85 billion are spent annually on home improvement projects going through financing, whether it's through line of credit or otherwise. And so, how might
Michael's
that?
quick heads up there, Michael. We got about 5 minutes left here.
Perfect. Thank you. And so, how might that affect you and your ability to sell at the highest, amount possible? Last couple here, and then I've just got some action steps for you. So remember, value beats price. Don't be so focused on your price. Remember that customers are going to buy when the perceived value is greater than the price. So you should be raising your prices to keep up with, just market conditions, inflation, if you will. But we should also be raising our prices because we're providing more value. And so think through that perception. What are the things that your customers actually value? And then how can we provide more of that? And then finally, price confidence. Understand what your price is. Be confident in it. Remember, you're not your price. Your price is calculated by PaintScout. It's not your job to try to like manipulate a price to get a customer to buy. If you have really good conversations with a customer, you understand exactly what they want, you provide them with that exact quote, then that's just the price. And then we can use maybe some of these other tools that we've talked about to make sure that it's going to work within their budget. So be confident in where that's coming from. Awesome. So you can see just a couple quick takeaways and action items. Notice your thoughts. Role play weekly. I would suggest stop practicing on real prospects. Marketing's expensive. As much as you can, try to do role playing within your office. Use that value language, right? Try to avoid discounting. Discounting is a great tool. We use it a lot here, but we discount intentionally from a known position that we can afford to do so. But we only do so once we've isolated that that's the one true objection. I'm not going to provide a discount until I know that there isn't something else that might be preventing them from moving forward. And then always presenting those financing options so that we're making things more approachable for our clients. Remember, a lot of people in the United States and North America use financing all the time, buying cars, buying furniture, whatever that might look like. Don't take your own mindset around financing and prejudge what your customer is looking for. Running out of time. So what I'd love to hear, if you have any questions, let's go ahead and put that in the question and answer. Also, if you want to use the chat, maybe tell me what's one takeaway, what's one thing that you're going to commit to try to work on this week as you move forward in this busy sales season. So let's go ahead and kind of wrap things up, open up that question and answer. See if I can answer some of these. John, certainly help me out.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's take a look here. So we've got, let's see some questions.
Finance companies, I'll just say, like, again, the integration with WiseTech in the United States is awesome in the PaintScout because it's right there. Like, I don't have to leave the PaintScout environment to provide that to my customer. Before that was a part of PaintScout, we used Green Sky, which is a big one in the home improvement industry. It gets challenging because you've got to like move outside of the platform, but I love the WiseTech integration.
Yeah, I think, quick comment. I mean, mindset is such an interesting thing. And when we've talked about this before, just like it plays into a number of different areas.
Mhm.
Mindset for me also, like for money, but it's also like in everything we do, we kind of put that in our business. Um, a big one I've had discussions with people about recently has been reviews, or not, sorry, not reviews, tipping.
Mm,
And so like tipping
sure.
crews, money mindset plays right into that, where I'm like, I don't like being forced into a tip, but some people love tipping. So it's kind of this weird, like, how do you manage this stuff? But I think everything you've got here is just awesome. And for those, here we go. We've got some great questions, guys. Fantastic. Um, Financing options in Canada, there is not currently. Very sorry to say. We're working on it.
It's too cold. That's what the problem is. Just
It's too
always winter up
cold.
there.
Yeah, they don't respect our money. It's too much monopoly-esque. Um, how do you use options for price conditioning? What do you say, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. One, like we try to think of, we try to give options on every single price on every single project, so that we're giving clients like more of what they might be looking for. So it really depends, right? Like yesterday, I was out doing an estimate with one of our sales reps, doing some training, and so it was paint the outside of the house. We had an option for the fence, an option for the deck. She really had not been thinking about doing that before. It wasn't a hard sell, but now it's an ability to maybe start budgeting for that project for next year. It shows up obviously as like a whole separate spot in PaintScout, as we all know, and it's pretty approachable for customers.
Can I add one quick thing to that?
100%.
I think I don't know, like it goes back to this idea that customers love to buy. I love to buy, but I hate being sold.
Yep.
And so I love options because it gives me control as the customer, and it allows me to decide how I want to purchase. And I think there's a lot of power there. So
I think that's why so many people get multiple options, because we show up and we give them, here's the one price, and they feel like, okay, well, take it or leave it type of a thing. And it's like, well, I need to know, like, I want to make that decision for myself. If the decision is just yes or no, then that's not good, right? We want the decision to be like choice A, B, or C, or D. Because if we're not giving it, then they're going to go seek it elsewhere.
for sure. Does it help your closing rate?
With financing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think so. For us, it's not like a significant. We're not even up to that 20% of our projects use financing, but I believe that it does. It moves the needle enough. And yeah, we just raised our price a little bit to be able to offer that to our customers. Obviously, we have to pay a little bit, and for the ones that want it, it's great. For the ones that don't, they don't have to use it. That's fine.
Do you present your proposal at the time of the estimate?
Yes. I mean, the goal would be 100%. I would say the reality is it's probably 95% of the time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that way, then we can have the real conversation. The conversations don't happen until we've given them a price. We're just at that point, like trying to do an assessment. We're understanding what their needs are, but we can't talk about objections and things until we've gotten to that point.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? We got 2 more minutes here. If you've got, you're just sitting there, think you've got a question, but you want to type it, just do it. Just type it in.
Throw it in there.
It's your only time ever to ask Michael Murray a question live on PaintScout X 2025. Enter yourself into the draw for $500.
Nick agrees. I saw Nick in the chat said about 95% of the time they present on site.
Oh, Nick, here we go. What's the biggest externality we may experience in 2025?
I think so. I think Nick might be going towards something like inflation or tariffs or trade wars with everybody or whatever that might be. I don't know. That's something. He said something we do not control. I think the most important thing. Nick's probably well in tune to how these things might be affecting our industry. I run a painting company in Cleveland, Ohio. I just try to focus on what can we do better. I think at the end of the day, if we provide an exceptional experience to our employees and to our customers, everything else that's going on doesn't matter that much. Might affect me a little bit, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be people that are willing to, pay for an exceptional service. I think, again, just trying to focus on the things that we can.
Cool. Thank you very much, Michael. Always appreciate you. And this has been
John, I gotta end this one the only way that I know how. With the money gun. Let's
go.
go.
There we go. Oh boy. Huzzah. Amazing.
Have a great day.